on another episode of whatever I do you want to call. I think I mix that up every video. I think it ends up getting flipped back and forth, but it doesn't matter. It's all just a load of shit anyways. So, attempting to do the steering column bearings in my OBS 7.3. Don't bother commenting or asking where I got the parts from. I bought them from the dealership because I have a spectacular fucking parts guy. Don't ask me what years are cross-referenceable. I don't have a clue. Don't ask me dumb questions like, how do you take the steering wheel off? It's pretty common. It's super easy. The tool is literally called steering wheel puller. It's that simple. I'm at this point right now. But yeah, you can see, you just pop that puppy off. She just will pull from the front. You just give it a little, and then steering wheel puller. Okay, some guys are going to call you a dumbass for fucking up the end of this shaft. Yeah, because that's the end of the puller sticking through there. There's this magical piece that comes with your puller kit. Look at that. Do you see that? Wait. Ta-da! Problem solved. Or you can just like use a piece of fucking, take a washer and like stack a whole bunch of washers in there. Like literally, there's a billion ways to not be a dumbass about it. And yeah, just 2 bolts. My steering wheel puller kit came with a whole bunch of extra bullshit in there, so I just found what fit. It's got 2 connections. Sits in here like this. Okay, there's 2 torque screws here and here. They go there and in there. You'll have to bend this piece up a little bit to get in there. I just put it on the end of a quarter inch socket, quarter-inch drive in this old puppy, and I just popped her up a little bit, wiggled it in there. You know, like so. They came right out. Don't lose them. Be very careful with this piece. I haven't been able to find an aftermarket replacement, and these all have double tabs. You're gonna need 2 flathead screwdrivers to get in on either side, because it sits in here like this, and then it'll be dangling like this, and then you can twist it to get to them, and then you can fiddle and fuck around. Moving on. You can see this guy here. I don't know what he's for. He was wrapped up in electrical tape, and he was kind of tucked up in here like this. I have no idea. Cruise, and like the cruise control works, the horn works, fucking what the rest of all the goddamn buttons on here. Yeah, those are the 2 functions on the steering wheel that seem to matter to me. Signal lights all work, brake lights work, fucking brake controller works. So I don't know what he was for, where he came from, but he's probably going to get electrical taped and shoved back in where I found him. Been running the truck for, 350,000 some odd miles, Lord only knows, so it's probably fine. You can see that I've got these plastic bushings here, C-clip, and then there's a spring. I'm at a juncture now. Do I remove the upper half of the column at the pivot, the spring-loaded pivot for the tilt, because I have a tilt column, or do I take the whole bloody works out, disassemble the bottom half of the dash, and pull the whole fucking thing out? I don't know yet. We'll find out here in 30 seconds after I do a little bit more looking through the book. Research is over. I've opted to follow some very wild instructions that I'm not entirely sure will pan out. I'm not going to pull the entire column assembly from the truck. Instead, I'm going to separate it at the tilt pivot where the spring-loaded bullshit, whatever, witchcraft stuff is. You'd think I'd have a better term for that. Guy that rebuilds engines and all sorts of shit, and I can't come up with a better way of saying that. So, what I've done is I've removed that dash piece. It's sitting over there, you can see. Next, I removed the lower valence. Mine was a little bit more difficult because my brake controller, and I have an off-road switch here, went right through. I had to take those apart. There's couple screws in here and here, and then that top piece just has clips. Just be careful, and it pulls right off. Then, the lock cylinder. Guys are talking about this sort of retainer that you're supposed to remove. There's this little hole, and there'll be a pin. what I did was I put my key in. Don't ask me how it goes back together. We'll get to that part. So what I did was I put the key in, turned it over to ignition on, took a dental pick, pushed up on the button, and this popped right off, which then allowed me to remove the top cover to get access to this and this, which I haven't pulled out yet, which will allow me to separate the pivot tilt after I deal with what's going on here. Hopefully. Maybe. Perhaps. We'll find out. And we're back. Okay, so that assembly, yeah, that little plastic piece, that just pulls right off. Underneath that is a C-clip and a spring. And then there's this collared bushing that kind of, like when it's in there, it looks like a snap ring, but it's not. Okay, then you put your lever back on, and then you're able to pull this assembly free of these two, where's my finger? These two locking bars, right, see? But this is your cylinder, ignition cylinder. It's a mechanism of some kind. And you'll know that you have it disconnected when, remember we had this in the on position, ready to start. You know, all the lights, blower, fan, radio, all that stuff's on. When you pull this out, that'll all shut off. I've disconnected this, which was that tri-button frecta that sat right here. I also pulled off this, which sat up here. I probably didn't need to remove this, but it's fairly simple to put back on, so we'll just set that out of the way. Here, you look at all that bullshit in there, so you can definitely tell something's fucked up in here. Normally it's this top bearing that goes, but this one's not all that bad. So now we're gonna go inside here. You can see that green retainer. We need to pull that out so that we can separate that linkage. There we go. Dental pick. Took a couple different ones. They're probably fucked, but whatever. Then you just give her a gent pull, and off she comes. Don't ask me how. Oh yeah, look at that. Fuck, eh? By the way, if you didn't notice it before, I got a standard, so I don't have the shift tube. I don't have the indicator with that fucking cable that loops around. I don't have any of that garbage that you don't need, because I know how to drive. I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna look at the parts diagram, because all three bearings are different sizes, and see where they go in this fucking thing. Fairly easy. Dealership gave me 3 bearings, of which the piece that we just took off, this guy here, only needs 2. 3157A is this upper one. 3157C is this one, and then B is probably down on the bottom there somewhere. So I just used like a punch and a hammer, and I popped the old races out from the backside. You can have a race puller tool or a seal puller, those work too. And then yeah, I used a brass drift with the wooden. I used just a little guy like this, and yeah, just ever so gently sneak her in there. A little bit of lube on your finger around the outside. Same with the front. In she goes. You don't want to hurt it. These things are very, very fragile. That's a good word, fragile. So now we're going to try and do everything in reverse. So hold on a minute. So as I stated, I haven't even gotten it all the way on yet. We put that tube back in. I cleaned up that shaft and put a little bit of lube on it. And yeah, boom. Fucking truck comes to life. So that's a good sign. So now I'm going to pop it back down and get those collars over top of that pin. Those, that plate and then the little sprocket that's behind it, take them out. Pop them right off. They're going to be in the way. way too much fucking around. Take them right off, and then you can slide the whole assembly back on. Put the spring on first, then click it all the way down, and then you just tilt it in. So that, anyhow, focus. That lip right there is the back side of that cone on the steering shaft. Make sure it doesn't end up over here when you go to pop it on, or it'll never go on. So I grab the bottom of the steering column with one hand and push this puppy on with the other. It's not up all the way, but putting this spring in first is far easier to get it in. Like that, it just makes it tough. So then I just put a rag over top of this, gave her a shove, started this by hand. Once that side's on, this side's fairly easy to go, and here we go. And you know that it's working when you pop it, and it actuates the way that it should. Then, with that rod in this hole, that plastic one that comes up with the teeth on it, then you can align that plate and the sprocket behind it in line with the way that this came out. And you'll notice that it's got a little tit on the top. Yeah. And then you'll see that little button that you pushed in order to remove it. It only goes in one way. So, of course, don't put it back on yet, because that cover's got to go on first, right? But at least it'll allow you to put this on. And then you can put that sprocket and that plate in there where it's supposed to be. And then you can, if you want, you can take this and you can do a trial run with it. I mean, while this is out, I should probably replace it since it's a little sloppy, but fuck it. Next. Son of a bitch. Next, you can go ahead and we're going to put that fucking spring assembly back on. So, my snap ring was just a little too worn. And the snap rings in the kit that I had are about half the thickness that they should be. So what I ended up doing was I put everything on the shaft. I reached under and pulled it up. And then with this piece of 1-inch square stock, after I had them sitting about here, I just slid it over the shaft and fucking gave her a hoo-ah with both hands. You know, punching them together. And then I got the one on, and then I realized that there wasn't enough, that there was too much space there, and that this was twice the thickness of these guys. So, I mean, without putting a caliper on it. So I just put a second one on there and did the same thing. And it seems awesome. So, I think I'm going to have me a dart. And then it's just a matter of putting everything else back together the way that you had it. So the cover goes on, and then your lock cylinder goes in. Remember, we talked about that. If you fuck it up, I can't help you, because I barely knew what I was doing. I really just got lucky. And then, yeah, it's just a matter of turn signal and all the rest of it. Put your dash back together. Hope it's clear as mud. It's the Super Duty one, Buddy didn't get in close enough. The other one, Buddy thought he just had to change the upper bearing, but he never did show what he did with the rest of it. He just explained what you needed to do. Nobody talks about the lock cylinder at all, except for one guy in one video made a comment about it, like, hey, you should probably do this. And it's like, great, thanks. So hopefully this helps. Till next time, we'll see you guys later.